Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about customer adoption and engagement in B2B e-commerce. I'm Mark Slowcock. I'm the CEO of GPMD. We're a specialist e-commerce agency focused on bringing B2B and B2C together on Shopify. Today, I'm joined by Alex Weston, who's the sales director at Sparklayer, and Ian Graves, who's head of wholesale at Rave Coffee. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Alex, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So as Mark said, I'm Alex. I'm the sales director here at Sparklayer. Sparklayer, if you don't know us, we're a B2B e-commerce platform, basically layers functionality for wholesale on top of existing e-commerce stores. So we've been doing that for about 2,000 different customers across the globe so far. And I head up all of our commercial ops. So I get the delight of speaking to our wonderful customers like Ian.
Fantastic. Ian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Ian Graves. I'm head of wholesale at Rave Coffee. We're the largest D2C coffee company in the country right now. We've recently stepped out into wholesale B2B, and with the help of you guys, we've got off to a good start. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Well, let's get into it, shall we? So I want to start off with talking a bit about B2B customer adoption and engagement, in particular the onboarding, the first step in the process. And the main question I wanted to discuss here is what onboarding steps should B2B brands be taking with their customers? And for me, I think this is just often an area that's overlooked or maybe underserved a little bit. I think there's a huge opportunity when you're either transitioning to a new platform to engage with your existing customers, but also when you sign up a customer for the first time, that's your golden opportunity to engage with them and bring them on carefully. So I think, Alex, your recent white paper had some great advice on this. I wondered whether you wanted to share some of that with us.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, as you say, it's a very underserved topic in a lot of ways. I think the topic of building a B2B e-commerce store is something that has been discussed probably at length, but not really so much once you've got that store. How do you actually get customers to use it? And I think probably really I've looked at it from a lens mostly with our customers of how do you get your existing customer base to use that e-commerce store once you've launched it? And the first piece of advice that we typically share around that is to launch in phases initially, or to phase the launch to different cohorts of customers. So ideally, you'd pick a cohort of friendly customers, those that kind of order regularly, and then do a kind of tailored walkthrough of the website and ordering process. And possibly you do the same thing for new customers that are coming on board as well. What that helps you to do is basically iron out any kinks that there might be in a new website or any kinks that you've got in your existing ordering process. Gather some feedback from customers about areas that they're finding troublesome, and then basically just figure out the things that are going to stop them using it. And so if you can start to iron out some of those things early with that first phase of customers, as you start to release that onwards to other phases of customers, then that really allows you to have a kind of more optimized ordering process as you go. So I think that's probably one of the first kind of areas that I would look at. And then the second piece, which I think is really useful, particularly in a B2B ordering scenario, is for top ordering customers. I would recommend creating dedicated shopping lists of regularly ordered products for them that are there ready to go as soon as they log in. So using functionality such as shopping lists, it could be super powerful because it's basically a way of collaboratively creating a cart for your customers. So save a list of products, either completely personalized that's, specifically for that customer, or you could do it at a brand level and say these are popular brands. I've added these as shopping lists to the cart so you can just quickly create something from there. So those would be two key ways really that I think we've seen a lot of our customers have success with starting to drive that adoption between phasing and then using something like shopping lists once they're actually on the website.
In your white paper, you had some really great ideas, create a webinar, talking, showing people how to use the platform and the features that you have, and that is something you can reuse. You can have that in your documentation, and also I like the idea of sort of one-to-one with getting your sales reps to onboard people one-to-one and show them the platform and get them working with it.
Absolutely,
very nice idea.
That sales rep piece is absolutely huge. Even if you don't have a sales team, but using sales agent functionality or like order masquerading functionality on your site, that can really help because, again, you can use it in a really collaborative way to start building out carts. And if you've got a cohort of customers or certain customers who just continually call you to put an order through, despite the fact you've got a beautiful website with all the functionality on it, that sales agent piece can be a kind of happy medium where you can log in, kind of say, all right, I've put all this order into a cart for you. Do you want to just go in and check out? And that will just kind of start to ease them into this whole process of ordering as well.
Yeah. And do you have any thought, any insights to how you handled onboarding for Rave Coffee?
I think in a strange way, we were quite lucky that we were starting from the ground up in terms of wholesale B2B, where we still had a core 30, 40 customers that we got in touch with to make sure that they were on board with it. I think you'll always get people that want to order on, directly, whether it be email or on telephone. You'll always get that regardless. But I agree with Alex. The sales agent has been brilliant for that. It just means that I can literally just log in as that customer and place the order myself, and their discount structure is already set up on there, ready to go. And I do love the idea of just a recurring order, just literally just click, place the order again. We're quite lucky that we'll have customers that literally buy the same thing, give or take the odd item, where there's only 3 or 4 lines that they'll order. So it really is easy for them just to go into their basket or their account and just click reorder, and then maybe add 1 or 2 extra items. What we did see, although we don't use it, I thought was a really good idea. You can upload the CSV. If you're part of a different business where some people may order 50, 60 items at a time, and you really don't want to be clicking through everywhere. You either can do the recurring order or you can upload a CSV, and that seemed really easy. We tested it a few times. And whilst we don't use it, I think it'll benefit other B2B out there really, really well. They're really happy with that.
Okay, so moving on to the next question, which is, how is loyalty evolving in B2B e-commerce? And Alex, I thought we'd start with you on this one.
Yeah.
Have you got any insights as to what you're seeing in your customers or how loyalty is evolving?
It's a funny question in some ways. Loyalty is sort of a broad topic. And I suppose if you look at the history of B2B e-commerce in general, or B2B ordering in general, it's something where loyalty has been kind of a mainstay, i.e. typically you would have a long relationship with a supplier. And therefore, for families and generations of people have been ordering from the same supplier and have this kind of long in the tooth relationship with them. So I suppose to that extent, loyalty within B2B selling or B2B kind of retail has probably changed significantly in that it's probably slightly more fickle than it used to be. But from a B2B e-commerce point of view, there's probably more of a shift in terms of how that operates in more of a sort of B2C style. And I suppose what I mean by that is we see a lot more kind of discounting going on in order to incentivize loyalty with a certain supplier, for example. So joining / loyalty incentives for people who are just doing their first order, or trying to use discounts to incentivize a repeat purchase, for example. So those types of things are becoming increasingly common. And then obviously from a B2B point of view, something that's slightly different, but is still a bit of a mainstay is kind of one-to-one price negotiations. And that's particularly relevant for those who are quite sales agent led or have a sales team that kind of lead those negotiations. But that can be a real driver of loyalty, because if you feel like you can have that relationship still, even though you've got an e-commerce ordering system behind the scenes, you've still got a relationship whereby you can, request a quote on the website and therefore can negotiate a specific discount, and you're going to get a reply from that sales rep, for example. That can be a really powerful tool. And I suppose that the final thing that we've seen work really well from driving loyalty within the B2B e-commerce space is just having pricing tiers, basically. But as someone goes through and reaches certain revenue thresholds or order thresholds, bumping them up to the next pricing tier so that they get access to the next level of discounts, and communicating that through things like email marketing and strategies around that. That can be a really strong way of kind of driving loyalty as well. But like I said, these are kind of typically things that you'll have seen from a B2C perspective that are kind of easing their way into a B2B e-commerce world, which historically has been quite a sort of loyalty driven a sort of part of the world to be in, really. So it's quite an interesting question in some ways.
Yeah, it's definitely multifaceted, isn't it? Because I think on the one hand, You drive great loyalty by delivering a really nice, easy to use experience, great products, good shipping, good pricing. I wanted to ask you a point on that. You said that people moving up discount tiers the more they spend. Have you seen anyone like gamify that, or at least say push people to do that by saying, hey, spend another X to get into the next discount bracket? Is that something you're seeing across your clients?
Yeah,
we haven't seen it in B2B, asked for it yet. So
it's something that we're seeing a little bit more of, actually, as we bring some more kind of B2C, historically B2C focused customers, a little bit like Rave, I guess, who are then going into wholesale. We're starting to see a little bit more of that kind of thing starting to eke in. So yeah, gamifying it a little bit and bringing that, communicating that really strongly, that there's an opportunity to move them into another tier, or move into another tier. But not only do we see that from just a pricing tier perspective, but also like a quantity-based discount point of view on the product pages as well. So as you're ordering more of the product, even on the product page, communicating that there's an extra level of discount, or you can get an extra, a different unit price if you order more on that same product page. So yeah, we've seen kind of both aspects of that being kind of gamified, if you like.
Ian, how have you guys been looking at loyalty within Rave?
You know what? The tiered pricing has been brilliant. We have a minimum order of like 85 quid, whatever it is. And what we found was that people were ordering the minimum amount every week or every few days, which operationally that creates a massive strain out in the warehouse when we're delivering out 4,000 bags of retail coffee a day. So it's really difficult to go, right, okay, they just want 4 kilos, break the chain and move on again. So we introduced the tiered pricing. A couple of reasons, really. One, most importantly, was to try and drive those reoccurring orders to be monthly, or the coffee lasts for 3 months. So there's no need to order weekly. It should be a monthly order. Most people have got room for a box or two anyway. So so our ordering probably this time last year was, the average order value was about £145. So we were getting larger orders, but the vast majority were £90, £100, knowing that they just got a small amount regular. When we introduced the tiered pricing, not only did that change completely. So, for example, as of yesterday, the final average order value was just over £200 from yesterday. So you can see a massive leap, although that obviously £100 is not a great deal in that sense. But if you're halving the amount of deliveries that you're dispatching from the warehouse, that makes it easier for me to walk into a room and talk about wholesale as not interfering as much as it needs to be with the retail element, which is more profitable for our business, of course. But so that really helped. But what another aspect is what we really liked was, when you go on to our wholesale site, you get a 15% discount, for example, and it will show that 15% discount unless we've had a negotiation there. Now, we have because of our retail element, we have a lot of customers signing up, probably in the region of 3 or 4 a day, which is really healthy. And sometimes you'll see them, large cafes, multiple cafes, but they used to walk away because they'd see that initial price and walk away. They wouldn't answer the phone when we tried to call them to try and get involved and understand the pricing a little bit more. What we found when doing the tiered pricing, because they'd sign up, they'd literally see, if you order 45 kilos of this thing, you can get 40% discount. Which all of a sudden we started to get larger customers on the back of that. So not only did that help with our existing customers to go, actually, let's order every 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it may be, but new customers coming on board, all of a sudden we're going, actually, this is less than the market rate for a kilo specialty coffee. So we can talk further, and we had a lot more communication from customers onboarding. So in terms of a wholesale growth, it's been ridiculous. It's been really, really good, because it meant that we've captured those new customers and we've lowered the amount of deliveries that we're dispatching from our warehouse, albeit larger deliveries, which has been really great. So really happy with the tiered discount structure. It spoke volumes on every level for us.
It's really interesting that it's quite a simple concept, isn't it? And I'm assuming, if I've got that right, it's just the more you buy, the less the price you pay, and that's what you're displaying. So, just it's really interesting that helped both with the the frequency of orders and pushing up the average order value, but also the inquiries coming in. And I think that's quite a common problem we see, with businesses that have both B2B and B2C. And it's like, how do you, entice the B2C customer without putting off the B2B customer and show that you are a wholesaler as well? And I think that's a really interesting way of positioning it. And have you got anything in the pipeline to do anything around, sort of more sort of B2C style, like loyalty points or VIP tiers or free shipping or that kind of stuff, depending on the volumes that people are buying?
I think with the B2C, I'm completely out of the loop with that, admittedly. And there's a lot of that stuff going on with loyalty points programs. They're massively integrated with our retail department. And that is something that they're constantly on, and it's gone really well. So, for example, with the loyalty points and the marketing side of things that they put into place, Rave Coffee has been, the last 3 years, 40% year-on-year growth. It's been phenomenal with that side of things, and with the help of the B2B concept, we've actually kept up that growth from our side of things as a wholesale department as well. So it's been phenomenal, and to keep up with that has really helped me out anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. To wrap up this point, I think the way we see it is that there are definitely two elements to loyalty. And the first is the customer experience and making it as easy as possible for people to buy. And I think that also includes how you utilize your sales reps if you have them to allow, to do more. So, being able to buy online and self-serve should free up some time, and that should allow the sales reps to give a much, more personal experience to people and help them with the more complex orders. So there's a whole element around the experience, the pricing you offer, the terms that you offer, the customer service that you offer. I think that really helps build loyalty. And then the other side is, can you do incentives? Maybe, people do things like, refunds based on spend at the end of the year, that kind of stuff, so that you have different sort of tiers to help and, incentives to drive behavior, essentially. It's very interesting. It's much more nuanced than B2C. I think that there's a real mix to it. Okay, so on to metrics, which is one of my favorite topics. I love data and analytics. So what metrics should brands be using to measure their B2B success and the customer adoption and engagement levels? And I thought, Ian, we could start with you on this. What kind of metrics are you looking at day to day, month on month, year on year to measure your success?
Well, it's really about new business for us, because once you've got a customer, they will spend everything they can from us. So it was, I think it's back to that point about, admittedly, the tiered pricing, to acknowledge those new customers. We were getting, like I said, essentially 5 customers per day, and 90% of those are walking away. What we've managed to track, the way we've set this up, is that now it's probably 40% walk away, which is really, really great. And that, I think that's with the numbers that we're talking, it's been really beneficial. That's what I'm really tracking, is understanding what customers come through our doors as such, digital doors, and how many just walk straight back out again. And I think, considering, like I said, 90% of them would walk away because of our pricing structure. Now we're engaging with at least half of them, which is phenomenal. And I think that's been the real success, of knowing that when they log in, they can see that pricing. And it's back to that pricing, as I said. It means it shows that you're serious about wholesale, and you are a competitive player in the field that we're in. And for me, that is our biggest metric, to know actually those new customers coming in, how many of those are walking away or turning on, shall we say. And I think our company strategy was always, when we started this project, was we want to make sure it's as simple and easy as process as possible, whether it be on your mobile or your laptop, your tablet. You can get everything you need by either a click of a button, or it's so clear and easy. It's a little bit complex in what we do, because we do different grind sizes. We do different sizes of kilos of bags, 250s, and then you can grind it into whatever machine you've got. So if you are if you are reasonably familiar, even if you're new to the coffee industry, you'd still understand the particular grind sizes. But what is really nice is that there's a drop down there to say which size and then which grind size. And I think we always wanted to make sure that it was as simple as process as possible. And I don't think I've had too many problems with people not understanding that as well. So for me, the simpler, the better. And I think with what platform we've got right now has worked really, really well.
Simple is always better, for sure. And that's the trick, isn't it? Making something complex simple. So is there a particular so when you say that sort of new customer engagement, is there a particular metric? I guess what I'm thinking is, are you looking at number of people applying for accounts? Are you looking at number of people applying and then making their first purchase? Or is it something else that you're specifically looking at?
It's simply the conversion rate. We always chase every customer that comes through the digital doors as such, but it's the conversion rate is our biggest metric that we need to make sure that, because we effectively work from the retail end, we get a massive amount of walk-ins as such built up from the retail element. So we need to make sure that every single person that walks through those digital doors, we capture and we look after. And that's why the conversion rate for me is by far the biggest metrics we can work on, because we get so many people through the door. We just have to make sure that they're on board and we're engaging with them better. And as I said, if we're hitting 50%, that's a really, really good metric to go by.
Yeah, I'm the ones I like are onboarding completion, which is first order. So how many people actually what you could do that at different stages. Come to the website, apply for an account, place a first order. The time to first purchase as well. Looking at that, and it's like how quickly can you get that in? If you have a lot of offline orders like telephone and sales rep, so the digital adoption rate. So what's your percentage, converting online? So particularly if you've done a replatforming project and or a new B2B e-commerce solution, and you've got a small percentage going online, like can you drive more efficiency by pushing the adoption rate up? And is that something you said this was you started afresh. Did you have was it all offline, or was it literally wholesale was entirely new when you started?
Wholesale, there was always an element of it. Rave started as wholesale. Before COVID, they twisted the strategy and went for retail. Which worked wonders when COVID kicked in. Everyone's at home wanting how do we get coffee? So while the cafes, the offices were all quiet, Rave did really well with subscriptions and getting people online. So they worked really well with that. So effectively, just over a year ago, we switched to the wholesale. Tried to penetrate that a little bit more, because we were seeing customers coming through that we just wasn't ready for. So we created a wholesale team. It's only a team of 3 of us at present, but we wanted to make sure that we capture all that great work they've done on retail, because all of a sudden we started, the customers that were having subscriptions and whatnot, they were going back into the offices and saying, well, actually, I can get Rave coffee in the office as well. And that's where we came in. So we did jump on the back of that. So that's what's benefited wholesale quite a lot, because, as I said, probably 35% of our wholesale business is offices where people have had, and people will openly say, well, we had it at home and we can now get it at discount rate in the office, which has been really beneficial for us. So, and now we're working quite extensively to get the hospitality sector proper on board, cafes, hotels, restaurants, etc. So we're just stepping out into machinery to start making that offer available to everybody. So I've just put a job online today for a service engineer to make sure that we can look after those machines and then get out and see customers as well. So it's a bit of a hybrid role. So we're a bit cheeky. Go and fix your machine, by the way. Place your 10 kilos with us tomorrow. Yeah.
So are there any metrics that you either see people using or you like to look at yourself?
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me now. I think. Yeah, I think the big one that a lot of our customers focus on is customer run rate, and when they're looking at it's similar to what you were just talking about, Mark, to an extent in terms of like digital adoption. But um, is is an individual customer basically ordering at the same rate that they did the previous whatever the time frame is that the merchant would look at? So if your typical ordering frequency is weekly and customers typically order every week, is your best customer ordering weekly as they typically would do? And looking at that run rate, and particularly having sales agents look at that run rate as well, and making sure that they can actually see those orders kind of trickling through. So I think that's one that a lot of our customers really focus on. One that I think is probably not quite talked about enough, but is definitely important, is margin. Particularly when you're looking at your wholesale orders, it's really easy to give away margin by accident, and particularly when you've got sales agents doing negotiations and things like that. So you've got to be super hot on margins. And when you're doing B2B commerce, you've got quite a few different acquisition channels that you might be looking at as well. So just being laser focused on the margin at an order level can be really, really important, and just spotting the trends on that one as well. But yeah, I think customer run rate, repeat purchase rate are obviously something that is really important from a B2B commerce point of view, on top of the ones that you guys have already mentioned, which I think are super important and crucial. Mark, what's your favorite? You're the metric man.
My favorite.
What's your favorite metric?
I think it's customer lifetime value. I think is my favorite metric across everything, whether it's my own business, B2C or B2B. A customer lifetime value is really, is a really good metric. But I really like the margin one. I think there's I think you're absolutely right on that. There's way not enough focus on margin from my perspective. I see that across a lot of our clients that it's very easy to sacrifice margin, and unless you're really, like you say, razor focused on it, it's very easy for it to go awry. So really focusing on that margin. I always think of my brother when I say he runs a gardening business, and he is laser focused on margin, more so than I know anyone else I've ever met. That is his number one thing, and it's all about the margin, and he never discounts. So it's really, I think it's a really key one, the margin.
Love that.
Right. So challenges around customer engagement, and I think that the where I wanted to start with this was what are the main barriers or objections to e-commerce adoption? And I think there are two facets to this as well. There's internal barriers. So whether you're in a business that's maybe quite well established, has been trading for years, and there's some barriers internally towards digital and e-commerce adoption, but also buying, your customers, B2B customers, whether they like to pick up the phone, and what are the challenges and barriers around that. So Alex, I wanted to start with you on this one and see whether you had any insights from your clients around this.
Yeah, I suppose the answer to both in a headline is that it's never been done that way before, right? So it's like the barrier is just change in general, and getting people to change, and that can be both from an internal and an external perspective. I was speaking to Chris G from the B2B Commerce Association a few weeks ago, and he was reminding me of that The Office episode where Dwight tries to beat the website. I don't know if you guys have watched it, but he tries to outsell the website because it's launched and he sees it as his competition, basically. And that's exactly the scenario that you actually want to avoid as when you're launching a B2B commerce site. You don't want your salespeople to feel like there's this website that's come in that's suddenly going to take their job and take it away from them, basically. So those two things kind of go hand in hand, and using the website to kind of enhance and really help your sales team to make more sales and focus more on revenue driving activities rather than just order collecting, and positioning it that way is the way that we've seen customers have a lot of success, rather than just kind of putting this website up, not really explaining it to the sales team, and then kind of expecting that they'll just kind of be okay with the fact that this self-service thing is coming into place, and that's where their customers are going to be ordering from now on. So I think that's probably the biggest internal battle that we ever face, or that we see customers ever face, is kind of making sure that the sales team are kind of comfortable that they're working alongside this thing, and that they're incentivized, in tandem with the website rather than against it. And I think from a customer point of view, it's literally just making sure that the website that is launched has the feature set that they want, right, and that will help them to order. So as Ian was talking about, if you're not communicating that pricing effectively, and they're not understanding that there's a tiered pricing opportunity for them, then you're not going to be able to get people to actually use it and adopt it. And if you don't communicate all of that in the right way, then unfortunately it won't succeed. So I think that's probably one of the biggest barriers. Is it isn't the case that you can just launch a new website and people will come. You've got to be able to kind of drive that sort of adoption yourselves.
And Ian, were there any challenges you faced with bringing wholesale e-commerce online for Rave?
I don't think there was massive issues, to be honest. I think it was if you can use a phone, a laptop, any form of digital device, then it is simple that we've implemented. So, and if anything, it was a lot easier and simpler online than what it ever has been. So we integrated it. It was back to a comment from Alex about sales reps versus digital. I don't ever believe it will replace it completely, but what it does do is massively enhance the sales technique of that salesperson going out, and then you achieve a customer, and then they're good to go online, and then all of a sudden they're free to go and get that other new customer. So when that sales rep goes back out there as account management piece, they're only going out there to talk about the weekend, the football, whatever it may be, because they know it's always been the way. Your best customers, you don't even need to talk to them about work. I think once you've got that platform in place, which is what we have now, is that it's so easy for them to order online, and we don't have to worry about that next order. We just understand that actually it benefits both the sales rep and obviously the digital platform. But the sales, I'm a salesman anyway, so I'm always going to talk us up. So, there's nothing worse when there's no backup to what you're telling your customer, and they're having to ring in, trying to process an order, and then there's a communication breakdown. Some people aren't first languages aren't always English, so it's difficult when someone's on the phone trying to explain what they want, especially with ours. It's like espresso grind in this size and this size, and there's been a few times where that's gone wayward. So the more we can convince customers just to look at it online and just press reorder, that helps everybody, because the salesperson as well, they look great from it because every order's going through swimmingly, and they don't need that contact every 5 minutes to make sure they're doing the right thing. So I think it works really, really, really well together.
Oh, good. Right. Well, let's move on to the last question, which is how can brands leverage existing customers and advocates for more success? And for me, I love this one. I think word of mouth is absolute gold in any B2B, any business that's selling to another. And so facilitating that as much as possible. So encouraging people to make referrals, maybe doing webinars with happy clients is always a good one to do. And that can, not just on the tech business, but with Rave Coffee, Ian, I don't know whether you do this, but having webinars with customers talking about how they use the different types of coffee, educational basically, and how to use that kind of stuff. It encourages that sort of that referral and that recommendation, which is the most important. And the other thing I think is really important is like the simple things, like Ian, on your sites, you've got the same reviews on B2C. You've got separate sites for wholesale and B2C, but you've got the customer reviews on both. And quite often that it's a simple thing, but actually quite often that isn't the case, that the B2C has the reviews, but the wholesale site is neglected and doesn't have the customer reviews on it. And so thinking about that and helping your customer. And I think that's partly because maybe there's a expectation that your wholesale customer knows your product very well. And I think a lot of them probably do, but there's always going to be new customers, people that are either new customers to you or new to the industry, and helping them make a good decision is always a great way of selling your products. Alex, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes back to the points that I raised previously around driving that first purchase to an extent, in that you can utilize things like discounts and incentives in the same kind of way with affiliates and sort of advocates and that kind of thing. So, if you can drive your customers to recommend a friend by giving them a coupon code if they were to use it, the same kind of things that you might see in a B2C sort of style website, really. can be used from a B2B e-commerce perspective. So, or incentivizing them to give them access to an extra, the next level of pricing, for example, that kind of thing. So, plenty to get stuck into from that point of view.
And Ian, do you do anything that leverages your existing customers and advocates that? Is there anything that you particularly do in this area, or is this something that?
Well, with Alex, to be honest, we really focus heavily on social media with regards to people in the coffee business know other coffee businesses. The amount of times that we go to an event and a cafe owner or whatever it may be will say, "Oh, I know the guy that runs that," or "I know this business, I know that business." So I know that runs true in lots of other industries. It just feels a little bit more in the coffee industry where everybody seems to know everybody. So the more you can do and highlight the good that you're doing for that particular customer and helping them out, the better. I think there was a point that you made earlier about customers not always customers knowing what they need and whatnot. And I'm from a builder's merchant background, weirdly enough. I've spent for the last 15 years prior to this in the building industry, and there was nothing more that frustrated me that somebody new to the industry is going into a builder's merchant and absolutely having to know what they want. And that's not the case with 30, maybe 40, 50% of those customers coming through the door because they're new. They're not in the industry for 30, 40 years. That's not the way it works. So you've got to be mindful that when someone comes through the door, and that's why this platform helps, is that you're making it as simple process as possible. So they don't need to know 100% what they're doing. They just need to know the very minute bits, and if need be, there's help on hand for it. So yeah, it's a big bugbear of mine in the background that we treat every wholesale or business customer as somebody knows that's a professional that knows exactly what they're doing. And you have to twist that a little bit to make it work for everybody. Because that 30, 40%, as I mentioned, will just walk away because they don't feel comfortable in your store on your digital platform because it's not as, you have to know exactly what you're doing, and that's not always the case.
Okay, well, I think that brings to the end of our set questions. What I thought we'd do is open up to anyone listening in. If you've got any questions, please do feel free to put it in the chat. We've actually got a few that were submitted before the webinar, so I thought I might start with them. Alex, question for you. Best implementation of B2B customer experience?
That is a good question. Well, obviously Rave, you can't not say that with them on the call. No, I think if I had to pick a different customer, I think Asmodee, who are a board games company, they did a really good job of the strategy that I described previously of rolling out in phases. I think that made a really big difference to their adoption and how their platform was received. So yeah, I'd say that kind of phased approach, Asmodee was a really good example of that, and they saw some great adoption, particularly with their sales teams as well, which was really good.
Okay, so I've just got another one for Ian. So do you have any advice for anyone considering a re-platform or a move to Sparklayer?
For me, it's gone swimmingly. I think everyone adopted it quite quickly. We had no real issues. Anyone that was nervous or couldn't quite get it, we just made sure that we jumped on, called them, followed up with emails just to make sure that it's working and the way they want it to, and just reassured them that it's not the be all and end all if they can't do it online for whatever reason, that we've got sales agent process that we can use, which is really easy. We've got somebody in the office all the time. There's someone accessible to obviously their emails and whatnot, and we can all do it on the move. So I think as long as you reassure people that actually it's not the end of the world if you're not tech savvy, you can go ahead and just call us. But I suppose we probably got 95% of our customers on board quite quickly. So I've had no issues with it because it's so simple, and that's what we was always going for, making it so easy for the customer. It's too easy not to use it. So yeah. That was
So
ours.
good communication then, and making
absolutely.
sure that Alex, another one for you. You just launched quoting and support for Wix in the last couple of weeks. What's next on the roadmap for Sparklayer?
Good question. Yeah, we've got some great features coming up, particularly around sort of cart search functionality. And there's a very exciting feature that I'm not even sure I'm allowed to talk about, but it's got our favorite 2-letter acronym in it, AI. So yeah, there's going to be a little bit of that dropping into the platform as well.
God, we got through 49 minutes without mentioning AI. That's quite impressive.
I was almost reluctant to bring it up, but since we've got Alex and Ian on the call, we can go with AI and just say it was us two.
Oh, brilliant. Well, sign up to the Sparklayer newsletter to find out more about that when it comes out.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's a key piece of advice for B2B businesses enhancing their digital offering, moving from a legacy sales-based approach?
I think if you could wrap it up into two key things, it would be communicate really clearly the changes that you're making and why you're making them, and gather as much feedback as possible.
So a question for me. Have you supported replatforming projects from an agency perspective? And what are your biggest takeaways for a successful replatforming? Any standouts? I think my biggest takeaway is make sure you plan, and you are very clear about what you're doing. So you need to do a very good discovery with good workshops with the right people from both the brand side and the agency involved. And you need to keep that going all the way through the project, because no matter how hard you try, you think you've gathered everything in discovery, there are always things that come out of the woodwork as you go through the project. So making sure that you do that great discovery, you get to know each other well, and then as you're going through every phase of work or every sprint, you're doing another planning session, you're talking through in detail the things that you're delivering, and making sure that you've got the right people in that planning session so that things come out. And most of the time, I'd say 98% of the time, something will come up in those planning sessions that nobody's thought of before. And so if you want to get to a good result at the end quicker, that's key. So again, communication, really good communication all the way through. That's my standout.
Great advice.
Okay. Have we got anything else? There's one for me. It was submitted earlier. What's been one of your standout B2B e-com projects customers? I think I have a lovely customer called Shoes for Cruise, and they've been a customer for quite some years now, 6 or 7 years, and they sell shoes into the hospitality industry, and so shoes for prep employees or McDonald's, and we B2B and B2C. We did it on Shopware originally, and we launched B2C on Shopify last year, and B2B is coming very soon in the next 4 weeks. So they've been a great client, really, really lovely to work with, and it's been a lot of fun. It's my standout. Okay, so I think unless there's any more questions, we could move on to a top tip? So Alex, do you have a top tip? Final comment.
I think we've said it already, but gather as much feedback as possible and listen to your customers. That is the top tip always.
Ian, do you have a top tip?
I think you've said it. I think it's the communication piece. It really is. I think make sure that everyone's aware that this is helping them. This is actually contributing to their business as well as your own. And keep talking to them, making sure that it's all. But communication is absolutely miles above everything else, just to make sure that they're on board and it's as good as it can be.
My top tip is start with a strong foundation, but make it as small as you can in terms of feature set, and then go with continuous improvement. We did have one last question. So how do you encourage customers who have signed up to our B2B platform but have not placed an order to place orders? Ian, do you have any tips on this?
We're in the position we tend to make sure we get in touch with them, and whether it be email, phone call, try and get in touch with them and just say, look, try the product. We'll send samples out. We'll send as many as it takes to get them there, because I think for us, once someone's tasted the coffee, whether it be 2 or 3 different ranges before they get to the right one, we just make sure that they've got a sample, some sort of samples that get them to buy. Not everyone's going to like the coffees that you're offering, so never just give them the one. Make sure there's 2-3 samples there that we send out. And most of the time, we end up, once they're in, they're in. Once they've enjoyed that coffee as such, they tend to go, right, we'll make a decision on that particular coffee. We just make sure we almost force samples on people just to go, just try it, whatever it may be. It's a small amount of money in the bigger picture of what they can spend. A cafe obviously can easily go through 10, 20, 30 kilos of each. So sending a little 250 gram bag out just to bang it in the offer, to give it a go, tends to be the way forward. We almost immediately, as soon as we make any contact with the customer, we go, right, we'll open you up an account. You can now see all your prices online. That's one way of ticking that box for them. And then actually we'll get some samples out. If you need any more, just give us a shout if you see some online. So if we can offer them something straight away, then that normally is an attractor anyway.
Ian, a closing remark?
All I would say is, like, back to just make sure the customers are aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it and how it will benefit those. And you'll always get customers that don't want to do it online, whether you offer them training or not. This is just how some customers will be. They want to do it on the hop. They want to just phone somebody because they want that connection. So as long as it's not like 90% of your business that does that, then you're on to a winner. If it's just the odd call, and then not only that, the odd call now and again just to place an order actually helps with the customer communication anyway. So we're lucky enough that we probably only get 5% of our customers ringing in or emailing in for orders. Most of them are directly online. So just embrace it and make sure that the communication's there and they understand why you're doing it and you're doing it for the right reasons.
Excellent. Well, thank you both very much. Ian and Alex, it's been really a pleasure talking with you.